Holy shit. Game of Thrones, welcome to What the Flick, everybody. Game of Thrones, episode 9, called...
The Reigns of Castamere.
Bullshit, it was the Red Wedding. And everybody knew it, and they couldn't name it that, because that would have been trending.
Right.
But all you guys, that's what you guys refer to it as, those who've read the book.
Okay, what is that? What does that mean?
The Red Wedding is one just supposed to give you the idea of it being a betrayal and murder and all that, and it's also a callback to historically what this came from, which is something that happened in Scotland called the Black Wedding, which also had betrayal and murder, and that was an actual real life event.
And what's the Reigns of Castamere?
The Reigns of Castamere is the song that's about what Tywin Lannister did to the family, the Reigns, when they were challenging the power.
Right.
And Cersei explained it to Marjorie in the last episode.
Oh, right.
So it's the Reigns who live at Castamere, but it's also, the idea is that they've all been killed, their castle is torn down, and now just rain just comes on their castle. That's the only thing you can hear there.
Yeah, that story reminds me of when the Mongols got messed with in a particular town in Central Asia, in a fairly large city, one of the larger cities in the world at the time. Not only did they destroy the city, kill every man, woman, and child, and destroy every single building, but they rerouted a river that went through it so that it would be wiped off the face of the earth. Wow. And that's what Tywin Lannister reminded me of. And that's what he did last night to the Starks, which was the single most painful thing I have ever watched, not just on television, but ever.
Yes,
okay.
I agree with you. It was really difficult to watch, and after that scene, after the Red Wedding, I just remember thinking, questioning whether or not I want to continue watching. Because on one hand, it was so surprising, and entertaining is not the right word, because you're not entertained, you're just so shocked, right?
Though.
You're captivated, exactly. But at the same time, I just felt so negatively about that scene that I was like, I remember turning around and looking at my friends and saying, I'm never watching this again. And then right afterwards, I'm like, I can't wait for the next episode.
Well, I don't have any doubt that they will lose some viewers.
I got tweets like that after episode 9 of the first season.
Yeah, and some people will leave, but this is even more. That was 9 episodes of Killing Ned Stark. This is 29 episodes that they've done, where the whole thing was essentially there are a ton of storylines, but the main storyline is the Lannisters and the Starks. The Lannisters and the Starks. That's the rivalry. Those are the people you know best.
Yeah.
Those are the people we get, and that storyline is concluded. Less than but it's basically concluded. I mean, I got it. Bran lives. There's an heir. At some point, they're going to realize he lives, and he's a smart little bastard, and with great powers. And Jon Snow may reassert himself as a Stark. There's a host of possibilities, but they got no army. This part of that story is completely concluded, and that is
what about Arya? Arya still lives.
Come on. She's a young girl.
She's a girl.
Well, she's a girl, but really fast.
She's a smart girl, and I feel like she's going to do something. And by the way,
she's definitely going to do something.
Well, you know who else is also a girl?
Sansa.
Well, Sansa, sure. Khaleesi, exactly. That's what I was going to say. And Khaleesi is a badass, and Arya, I would argue, is stronger than Khaleesi is.
Arya delivered that line. Someday, I'm going to put my sword through your eye and out the back of your skull. And she just turns away. From one of the she says that's one of the most stone-cold killers in the world. But that's a badass girl.
From
and
a
good
TV
actress.
point of view, to sort of take a storyline and end it like that, I got it.
That's 100%.
That's an amazing thing to do.
There's a million storylines, and one of the best lines of this episode was when Bran got in the mind of Hodor and said, "Can they do that beyond the wall, etc.?" And they said, no one can do that anywhere.
Right.
Okay, and I was like, oh, damn. Right? Because, I mean, the ability to control other human beings with your mind is pretty badass, okay? I mean, that's dragon level stuff, okay?
Yeah, right.
That's Vagine monster level powers, okay? So, I mean, so the Starks, again, could make a comeback in a different way, but Ben is right. I mean, their armies wiped off the face of the earth, and Robb Stark, who was a great strategic mind when it came to war, and you were rooting for him, is gone. The mom, who was the central emotional character, she died without knowing her 3 kids are still alive.
Let's talk about that. So here's what she thinks. She sees her oldest son killed, right? She sees her grandchild killed, her unborn grandchild killed, right?
Ned, too.
She thinks her 2 little boys are dead. Right?
No. And Arya.
And Arya.
And
she's been
Sansa.
And Sansa. And she couldn't rescue them. And it all got sent into action because she left them to make a little trip to see her husband.
And I feel
she dies thinking she is the worst mother. Oh, and she had this moment, she had this wonderful epiphanic moment of, I did wrong by Jon Snow. And so you think then, well, she sees Jon Snow, you know what she's going to do? She's going to give him a hug. Nope, doesn't get to do that either.
And what about that moment of like tenderness between Talisa and Robb Stark? You know, he's like rubbing her belly, and that you can tell that they're in love. And Catelyn watches that,
And she's finally happy?
She's finally happy. You could see, you know what? She's ready to accept Talisa, and it was a great moment. I feel like the name of the episode should be So Close but So Far, because Arya is about to reconnect with her family, but right before she does so, boom, they're all dead.
Jon
right?
Snow and Bran are very close.
So close, but so far. So it was just like this episode of frustration. You're like, come on, just if it was only 5 minutes earlier, but then Arya would have died. So.
It's a good thing she didn't make it in time.
Yeah.
So 2 quick things about that. Number one, the Starks, when you realize what the Game of Thrones is about, and that's why this thing is so awesome, because it's ironically realistic. Because every Hollywood movie or TV show, the good guy always wins, right? 99% of the time they win. Here, the good guys don't win, and precisely because they are good guys.
Exactly.
The Achilles heel of the Starks are honor and love, okay? If Robb Stark hadn't fallen in love with Talisa, okay, he would have had the phrase on his side. He wouldn't have been murdered by the phrase. He probably would have beat the Lannisters. And by the way, the love of the mother for her 2 daughters released the hand of the Jaime Lannister. Those are the 2 critical mistakes they made. If they didn't make those 2 mistakes for love and honor, right now they would have had the Karstarks, they would have had the Freys, and they probably would have had Tywin Lannister's head on a stick. And that's what did them in. The thing that makes us root for them and just writhe in pain as they die is the reason they die.
And even the move, so obviously his move of not marrying the Frey daughter because he falls in love with Talisa is an obvious mistake. But then even a moment where he could have avoided paying bitterly for that mistake is that he makes another bad decision. I mean, as great as he was young and inexperienced, and the fact is, his mom recognized, don't cut off the Karstarks guy's head, you'll lose your army. If he hadn't done that, maybe he doesn't even have to go back
to the Freys.
To Freys. And so he made,
But that was the thing about honor. That's what I meant.
Right. That's
it was Catelyn's love for the kids that released the Kingslayer, and it was his honor. You cannot betray me. I will cut your head off.
And not just betray you because you killed the innocent Lannister kids. And I want Tywin. I don't want to kill his frickin' 14-year-old nephews. We don't do that.
So what I really loved about this, obviously, I knew that this was coming and everything, and later on after this was probably the single most surprising one scene in the series, but there's more betrayals coming, there's more murders coming. And what I loved is we were sort of introduced to the concept that your favorite character could die when Ned Stark was killed in the first season, but it's been a while since then, and people might have been getting cozy.
Right.
But what I love about the Red Wedding...
Don't get cozy! We'll slice their friggin' throats!
What I love about the Red Wedding is that books later now, there are scenes that'll happen that we're not going to see on TV for 3 or 4 years, where characters will get in a sword fight, characters that have been around since the very beginning, and I legitimately do not know if they will survive, and it makes it so much more enjoyable because sometimes he goes crazy and he cuts someone's head off.
So how did the episode differ from what you've read in the books? Because that's been, I don't know, some people are criticizing the show for that, but would you say that the show is better, or would you say the book is better?
So I'm not going to say anything about the differences that might lead to a spoiler, but stuff that I don't believe that will lead to a spoiler is, in some ways, it was harder to watch than it was to read. And in, I think, maybe IGN's review or the AV Club's review, they said that one of the differences between a book and a show is that in the book, if it's too shocking, you can read fast to get past it, or you can read slower to process it. But on the show, you're along for the ride. Now, in terms of what was very different is, in the books, Robb Stark is not a viewpoint character, and Richard Madden makes him a better character than he is in the books.
They totally built that part up. Kid Robb is in it, and the Red Wedding happens, and he's slaughtered, and he's the King of the North.
But you don't care as much.
You don't care, but they made him a character that matters.
And Talisa is a way more interesting character than the character she is in the books, who's totally different. You care way more about her. There's the pregnancy angle. So I was watching it with my former co-host Lisa on video Skype. When they started stabbing her in the stomach, I actually screamed. I had more of a reaction than the person who hadn't read the books. And so in that way, I think, even though I knew it was coming, it had a bigger emotional reaction on me.
But in the books, she's not at the wedding.
No, she's not.
She lives.
She's like a nobody.
We don't know. Except, is she pregnant? Does she have his child in the books? We don't. I mean.
Well, they don't make it clear, and people had the theory that maybe she's actually off there after this episode. I would say that that's probably not the case.
So I had a couple of quick detail questions. at one point when Robb Stark is looking at the map with the lions and the wolves on the map, there's a red X behind the wolves, okay? And it looks like the thing that Theon Greyjoy is on.
Yeah.
Okay, can you, is it a spoiler to confirm whether that's true or not? Did you notice that?
I can't confirm or deny if that's it looks like what Theon's on, but what I can say is what that is it's the symbol upside down of the Boltons. Like their flag is actually the guy being flayed.
Oh, really?
They've shown their
That's a
flags.
flag.
Yeah, it's a weird house.
well,
they've shown their flags in the show before.
Yeah.
And so those are the Bolton forces.
Okay, well, now we know why that's their flag,
Exactly.
right? And the
Also,
Boltons
how about-
were Bolton, the Starks. So, but doesn't that indicate that Theon
that mean?
Greyjoy is probably with the
Hold on,
Boltons?
what does that mean?
They bolted the
They left.
the
They
alliance with the
abandoned them.
Starks.
They bolted the Starks.
Yeah, close enough.
Jesus.
The Boltons.
I just don't. I don't think it respects you to let you get away with that stuff. How about?
Oh, here we go.
How about Lord Bolton's like, what a douchebag? I mean, it's not like because he's like. But
I
he just,
know.
but he just shows
It was her hand.
Yeah, but no, but he looked at his arm. He
Yeah, it
looked at
was
his
his
arm.
arm.
No,
He
he
had
was
the
like,
armor.
and he
He's a
didn't
dick.
pull it away. He was like, look at it, look at it,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
see what's about to happen.
Plus, he marries for money. That was a funny little line.
Yeah,
That he got.
she's made me very rich. Yeah,
And come on, he had one of the better lines, though, as evil a character as he is. The Lannisters send their regards. Woof. But you know what? Like, if the shoe was on the other foot and somebody was stabbing Joffrey and they said, the Starks send their regards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, how badass would that be?
It would be.
Okay.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, look, now that we lost one of the characters we love, at the end I thought, it's gotta be Khaleesi. Don't let anyone else win.
know, but-
It's gotta be Khaleesi.
But now I'm afraid to get attached to any one character. Like Khaleesi has been my favorite character all throughout this entire show, and I feel like I need to convince myself to hate her.
Yeah.
You know? Like-
here's my worry about Khaleesi, and it comes from having watched television and movies for my entire life.
my worry is that crooked tooth guy is going to turn on her.
I mean, this is the guy she's getting all
long-haired
verklempt for.
Fabio.
Like any blonde-haired, long-haired guy on television is a bad guy. They all are. I'm not kidding. Like think of every John Hughes movie. Who's the rich kid? Who's just a dick, right? And and like Alexander Goodenough in Die Hard and Gary Busey in most of his movies. They're sinister. They're not to be trusted. That guy is not to be trusted.
The flip side is that Game of Thrones breaks every convention of television.
Yeah, but it's still television. It's still like okay.
If you're on television and you have long blonde hair, you're a bad guy.
Right.
That's the one rule that cannot be broken.
So I don't trust that guy, and obviously she has already shown. Like I get it, she's into him. That's fine. She gets to fall in love again.
Poor Grey Worm.
But
That's
right.
his name, right?
But
Yeah,
but she dismissed Jorah and Grey Worm. They're covered in blood. They just defended
The
her.
look on his face when
Right.
she asks, he's just like, oh
Yeah.
no.
What did I
Come
just?
on, it's this heroic
Yeah.
thing, and you don't even care about me.
Right, so-
I feel so
friend-zoned.
bad for him because he's
so
had a hard
alone.
on like as long as a Dothraki for her. I mean, he's like, oh man, he wants her so bad, and then she's like, where's my lover to be? He's like, oh come on, dude, I almost died like 78 times. And Grey Worm's too skinny. Like
Yeah,
for a
he's
character that badass, he should be a lot more solid. But that was another great scene in this episode when the three of them started killing everybody.
And Grey Worm had an incredible little return sword to sheath moment, or like he had a little incredible behind the back. Yeah, he had a nice
The
little
way
thing.
each of them fought a little bit differently, you
Yeah.
only got to see a little bit. Like I would have liked to have seen more, but I love the different styles.
Yeah.
Like Grey Worm was badass, and the way that Dario combined with the bodyguard, that was awesome.
You know what I also love about the show? The fact that, not only does it usually end with some sort of cliffhanger, it has cliffhangers throughout the entire episode. So in that particular scene with them fighting the army, you don't know. It ends before, like, all these people start rushing in, and then boom, the scene ends. And they don't get to it until later on in the episode, and it, like, keeps the suspense going. It's very good
That
stylistically.
guy's young James Spader. He's gonna fuck her, and not the good way. Yeah,
Maybe both ways.
yeah, maybe both ways. Well, I'm certain he's gonna.
Double dagger.
One of them's gonna happen, no question. Maybe he burns in a fiery dragon hell. That's possible.
Yeah, but I don't understand how any of the Valar Morghulis guys can get killed. So that's a whole nother problem. And I don't understand why they're not ruling every kingdom. Like, the assassins.
That's an expression that's used. We don't necessarily know that he's in the same group as the guy that Arya knows.
And it's the guy that
she referenced.
the guy that Arya referenced, that was the guy who said, "I'll kill 3 people for you," right? Okay,
Right, yeah. So now back to Jon Snow for a
But
second.
that was a great line, by the way, when then, who's the big guy? That's the Mountain's name?
The Hound?
The
Oh,
Hound.
the Hound.
The Hound. And the Hound was like, "Is that him?" She's like, "No." He's like, "All right, good." Yeah.
So Jon Snow, is he okay? Like, we don't know yet because he just ran away. Number one, if he doesn't come back for the girl, he's no Stark of mine. Okay. So yeah, he ran away, and the girl's profoundly disappointed. But even Game of Thrones can't throw a curveball that big in TV convention. He's got to come back. He's got to come back for her. Number two, didn't he see the wolves?
Right, that's
If
what I
he
was
sees
saying.
the wolves, he's like, "Holy cow, Bran and what's his face are here."
Right.
Maybe.
So he's got to come back for
He
that.
seemed to see the wolves. What was unclear, what was not great about that scene is that if it was just Ygritte and the Marlboro Man, then the grizzly guy, whatever.
Oh, yeah. Tormund.
Right, Tormund, sorry. If it was just Ygritte and Tormund, then why did he run off?
Exactly. I thought he should have fought Tormund.
So, and if you're
He
going to
was a real
argue,
man.
and if you're arguing that there were still more,
There's other people.
There's other wild. Obviously, there was a bunch who raided the farmhouse originally, so they're theoretically around. But if there are others, then we needed to see that because
They should have shown
it
it.
seemed to all of us that that Ygritte and Tormund were there, and he just bolted, and he'd seen the wolves. And he might think, look, my little brothers are dead, and these wolves are roaming the world themselves. But you'd think he might
Yeah, I think
investigate.
that
that's
was
what
a rare, not
Yeah.
good framing thing because
Right.
you're right. With the wolves and Ygritte on his side, that's your best chance to kill Tormund anyway. I mean, let's keep it real.
If she would agree to that.
Right, but I mean, like, that's your best shot, right? Because
They've been underselling the number of wildlings in that group the entire time. Even when they're racing towards the horses and the old man, that was not as many as are supposed to be there. It's
Okay.
supposed to be like 50, 60 guys or something like that, if I remember correctly.
But this was a party that took the horses, so
Yeah, maybe that
there
was
could
a
have been
smaller
6
group. That's
guys in that
true.
group, but there was no indication that there were more people. It was
That's true.
If that's the case, it was. I thought that was sort of poorly done. But we will want to know, obviously, what happens to Jon Snow. He's got to come back. But that was a great look on Ygritte's face.
Yeah,
Like,
she looked so upset.
yeah,
Yeah.
I can't believe that guy bolted like a bolted.
But also, like, she knew. I mean, like. She knew initially. She was like, "I know you. I know you're still a crow." Earlier, and then later she's like, "No, you'll die with us." Like she's unclear what she thinks or wants.
I love that they end up
Ooh,
back
women.
at the windmill, by the way, where they had their beautiful little tra-la-la-la-la day moment about the silk dresses and stuff.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
right.
And they end up back there for his betrayal and
I
fling.
didn't notice that, of course. Okay, and then look, you remember, of course, the leeches from the episode before, right?
Yes.
And so when you saw the leeches, you at least had a decent inkling.
Help a brother out.
Okay, when Stannis throws the 3 leeches from
Oh,
the
yeah,
king's
right,
blood
right.
into the fire, one of
the
them
big
is
leech.
Robb, right? Yeah, and so you had an inkling that Robb might die.
One of them is Robb. What?
Huh? Robb Stark.
One of the leeches is Robb.
Melisandre put the 3 leeches on Gendry, and then he takes the 3 leeches and says the names of the 3 different usurpers, as he puts it, and throws
Yeah.
them in the fire.
Don't recall that. Don't
It
recall
was
that
a scene
saying
from the
anything.
previous
Yeah,
episode.
but I
Well,
don't
then I'm
remember.
about to tell you something incredibly important. Okay, so he throws Robb Stark in there. So you have some inkling. The Game of Thrones is the only thing that does like foreshadowing that isn't necessarily true, right?
Right.
Like Khaleesi's son was supposed to be a stallion that mounts the world, but except he was a dead worm, right?
Yeah.
Okay, now so sometimes foreshadowing is not true, but in this case, that's why I was waiting to see if Balon Greyjoy, who was another one of the leeches, or Robb Stark died. Robb Stark died, another one of the leeches was Joffrey.
Yeah.
So afterwards, I thought Khaleesi, and I thought, give me Joffrey's head. At least let it be worth it.
So when he threw the 3 leeches in, he said, "Robb Stark,
Balon Greyjoy.
Balon Greyjoy."
Balon, who's the father of Theon Greyjoy,
Right, I was gonna say,
who's
yeah.
raiding the North like crazy,
right,
and
which
calls
we
himself a king.
haven't seen.
Right,
And
yeah.
he, well, then there's one interesting thing that happened, and then because I thought you were saying that he said Theon, and I was like, that's a waste of a leech.
No, he's no Arya. He doesn't waste his 3 kills.
And what we saw in the coming attractions for week 10 was a 1-second shot of me going, "Who's that? I don't even know who that is." and my girlfriend saying that's Theon's sister.
Yeah, you see very quickly. You see her.
She's coming back.
So Balin is
Yeah.
likely to be back then in episode 10 as well.
So we'll see what happens with the leeches. Now, a couple more interesting detail things. In all this time, until about 3 weeks ago, I hadn't realized that the opening sequence where they go, Game of fucking Thrones, Game of fucking Thrones, right? It's different cities depending on what's going to happen in that episode. Okay.
Oh, I didn't notice
Right?
that.
Well, you've only had 29 episodes to notice that.
Yeah, but people don't notice
No,
that.
actually, to be honest, it's a little long, so I fast forwarded.
I used to fast forward until I got so hooked on the song that I was
Yeah.
like, Game of fucking Thrones. And I'm sitting there like,
Ironically, in this one, they made a mistake. Maybe it was a scene that got cut, but they show Dragonstone, even though they don't actually go to Dragonstone.
okay, but they showed Winterfell up in smoke. Oh, so that was an interesting bit of foreshadowing
I gotta
in
go
the
back and
intro.
watch that.
I don't.
Yeah.
I can't. I don't know where anything is. Like I don't. I can't.
But that's actually why.
It's east
That's
of
another
Detroit.
reason why I started watching it. And I was like, oh right, River Run is there. Right. I'm with you.
Yeah.
And
But
then,
I can't. I need. It would take me 8 minutes. Like I need. And I'm sure there's a zillion maps online. I found one once. I should just look at the map. The problem is I want to look at the Wikipedia page with the map, but it will reveal stuff.
Yeah.
Like that's the danger. But it's funny. Only in The Sopranos and Game of Thrones do I religiously watch the open.
I know. I want to, but usually my friends are
Right.
like, it takes too long. Let's
the
watch
True
the
Blood
episode.
opening.
You know.
I know for The Sopranos, I always just I felt like, no, I owe it to you people. Like, you did it. You've created this great show. You've written this
Yeah.
great song.
Yeah.
I can sit here for a minute and a half. I can watch this and count the number of people, and it's true for Game of Thrones too, who get producer credits. And you're like 16, 17, 18.
You're more detailed than I am.
So there was an interesting question asked to us before we started filming this. Who is the more evil character, Joffrey or the asshole who carried out the Red Wedding?
Lord Frey.
Yeah, Lord Frey.
AKA Willie Nelson.
Right.
I can't believe Willie Nelson killed Robb Stark.
AKA the janitor from Harry Potter.
Right, the janitor from Harry Potter. I think it's a no-brainer. I think that Joffrey's degree of sort of warped evil trumps everything, even what is obviously the most evil act. I mean, if the acts make up your evility, then I guess Walder Frey wins. But Joffrey has a different kind of evil, and Walder Frey did this as part of they're fighting a war, and he decided to make an alliance with the Lannisters, and that means cutting the head off of the. What are you doing like this for? What does that mean?
So the one thing that they can't explain everything in the show. I totally understand that, but the one thing that they referenced but they didn't explain well enough was when they're eating the bread with the salt and everything. That like protection of guests who eat in your hall, which is based on traditions in the real world, like that is supposed to be one of the most sacred things in this world. Like that's why they 2 seasons ago in Winterfell they had a scene like that. Like if you kill a guest who's under your protection in your home, that's supposed to be like the worst possible thing you could do. Far worse than the actual murders themselves.
Yeah, well,
and they show that, but they don't, like it's not just that he changed his alliances. Like this is supposed to mean you can never trust the Freys again for the
got
rest
that.
of
I'm
their
going
I
to
know,
make
but
a
the flip
value-
side is the Freys are saying, wait a minute, you broke your solemn oath to me, right back at you, brother.
It's not a solemn oath in the way that the guest protection is.
And also,
That's
I'm going to
really,
make
that's
promise
really
of
interesting.
But I'm going to make a value judgment that the actual killing is worse than the than the pledge with the salt and the bread. Just I get it. Maybe I'm applying contemporary standards to Westeros, but so I think it's still Joffrey, even though that was obviously a hideous act. 'Cause
It's so-
Joffrey could ruin the world for everyone.
I know, but it's really difficult to choose between the two because both obviously have this huge disregard for human life. And then at the same time, I mean, you see what, Lord Frey did with killing that unborn baby, murdering all these innocent people at the wedding. Ugh, I'm going to go with him.
But when everybody he killed they're soldiers, and
He didn't
and
just kill the soldiers, he killed innocent people that had nothing to do with any of the drums.
They're all part of the.
He's not a terrorist. He just killed the soldiers. Okay.
He's a freedom fighter.
No, I actually don't even think it's close, to be honest with you. I think they broke a vow to Lord Frey. He's payback's a bitch.
Yeah, he's a petty, venal, terrible guy.
Right, and everybody knew he was a bad guy to
His
begin.
wife, by the way.
that's right.
I know, but that was a Kaiser Soze moment.
Did you not
like
hear
that
him?
was?
He'll get another one.
No,
Yeah.
he's horrible. He's horrible. God.
Yeah, no, I like
They're
that.
both horrible. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to defend Joffrey in any way, shape, or form. But
But this goes to my view of like what is really evil, right? Tywin Lannister and Lord Frey are tacticians.
They're practical.
Right, and they're evil in the sense that they'll kill your unborn child by stabbing you in the stomach 7 times, right? And they'll murder their guests when they're not supposed to. And
But since they're smarter than Joffrey, then they're better. They're less evil.
And you might be right.
Yeah.
But in my view, at least there's a purpose to it. They're trying to win this particular thing in this particular way, whereas Joffrey's an idiot, weak.
Petty, trivial, will kill because he wants to. The sight of blood excites him. That's a different.
And killing because of your insecurity, to me, is for some reason the most evil thing, right?
I agree.
You're such a pathetic character, and you know how pathetic you are, and you strike out at others to cover up for your own insecurity. Oh, I got no use for you. You're lower than the leeches.
So he's likely to live throughout all the seasons, based on the pattern we've experienced.
He's got to come.
And episode 30's got his name all over it, man.
And he's going to cry. And he's going to cry.
I hope so. Oh, please give me a crying Joffrey, sniveling as he dies.
That'll be great.
Somebody give me really fast. The Stark sender regards.
Who's sending it?
Arya. Two things really fast. One, there's hell all over the world. Everybody's having a bad day or whatever. The one person's having a good day. Samuel Tarly. He's got the chick. She calls him a wizard. He feels like smart. That's great. And also,
I read in Rolling Stone though that little reference was a way to make all the guys who know everything about the books feel good. That there's a girl out there who will be like, look, you remember everything you read in a book. You're a wizard.
Oh my God. That's why John liked it brought it up. Okay, look, it's quick aside. Samuel Tarly, one of the things I'm rooting for is not almost as much as Joffrey getting killed. Come on, that's number 1 by a mile. But is that Samuel Tarly gets laid before he gets killed. So please, all right, come on, he's a wizard. Yeah. You're out in the woods, no one's around.
Can't we end the night watch rule at this point and let John? The one thing that I didn't like was when we last left 2 weeks ago, Sam and the girl are running away from the birds, and we're like, "What's up with the birds?" And apparently nothing. That's what's up with the birds.
Or they just haven't explained it yet.
They haven't explained it yet. I assume the birds are there it looks like now would be to watch over them if they apparently broke flight. It was a little bit once out of the pit. Like literally, the episode ended with them like.
Yeah, it still drives me crazy that he left a spear behind. I'm like, dude, that's the magic spear that kills the White Walkers. What are you doing running and leaving it behind, you idiot?
Yeah, that may have been a mistake. All right.
The other thing really fast is I think I did correctly predict that they were very subtly foreshadowing like 6 episodes ago when I said they show something, they don't explain it, it's the most important thing that'll happen. Tywin Lannister writing his little letters, I'm pretty sure it was the letter that goes to the Freys and to Lord Bolton.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah,
I thought it was going to happen in the last episode. I thought when you said that it was when Joffrey was walking through explaining where the dragons were, and I was positive that in the last episode of this season, the dragons arise again and eat Joffrey. Based on your tiny little tease. I was like, it's got to be it. It's got to be it.
I could be wrong.
We're way over. By the way, as I do this now, apparently wrong every time. Banana, John, and Cenk, your host. Thanks for joining us. I thought what needs to be mentioned is that from a book point of view, the idea was 7 books. The last 2 haven't been finished yet, right?
Yeah.
7 books, 7 seasons. But this is half of book 3. Season 4 will be the second half of book 3. So at that pace, even if maybe some books are whole seasons, I mean, they're not talking 7 seasons. They may have to go through 2 books in a season if they want to do 7 seasons, or we're looking at 8, 9, 10 seasons of Game of Thrones. So we're a long way from picking a winner.
Yeah, they got to start cranking out these episodes faster. I don't want to wait a year.
I know. So they're already back shooting because I read from Richard Madden, King Rob. He was like, "This is when everybody's going back to start work," and he's like, "I can't believe I'm not going back. I can't believe I'm." He and Catelyn were devastated. I mean, they always knew they were leaving. They knew from the start that their time was up, but it was still they're incredibly emotional about it. I read a bunch of articles last night. All right, guys, thanks. Next week, the finale, episode 10 of season 3. I can't imagine that it tops this.
Yeah, and somebody send their regards to Joffrey.